Okay, real talk. Most buyers in Pittsburgh right now are doing something that is costing them thousands of dollars and they don't even realize it. They see a house they love. Someone tells them that there's other offers and they just start throwing money at it, hoping that it sticks. I see this exact situation play out all the time. Buyers feel that pressure and they immediately think that the only way to win is to just keep increasing their number. And then they wonder why their home value is not growing the way that they expected after about 5 years. Here's what nobody tells you. Overpaying is not just bad luck, it is a choice. And most of the time, it's a choice made in the moment without stepping back and really looking at what the home is actually worth. Today, I'm going to show you how to stop making that choice. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to win a home in Pittsburgh in 2026 without handing over more money than you need to. So first, let's talk about why this keeps happening. And I want to be clear. It's not because buyers are doing something dumb. It's because buying a home is an emotional decision. You walk in, the light is perfect, the kitchen is exactly what you wanted, and your brain goes into full I need this mode. And then someone says there are 3 other offers, and suddenly you're adding $10,000 to your number just to feel safe. I have literally watched buyers go from we're going to be conservative to what do we need to do to win this in a matter of minutes once the competition hits. It happens fast. I get it. I've been in Western Pennsylvania real estate for over 12 years, working with buyers and sellers. And I can tell you the buyers who get the best deals are not the ones who bid the most. They were the ones who knew what the home was actually worth before they ever wrote down a number. Those are always the clients who feel confident after closing instead of second guessing whether they overpaid. So what does the market actually look like right now? According to Redfin, the median home price in the Pittsburgh metro is sitting in the $270,000 to $290,000 range as of early 2026. That's up from where it was thanks to steady appreciation of 4 to 6% a year. Pittsburgh is still way more affordable than most big cities, and that's a big reason why so many people are moving here. But here's the thing. Affordable does not mean every home is priced right. It just means that the starting point is lower. In hot neighborhoods, prices can still get pushed way past what a home is actually worth when buyers start competing on emotion instead of facts. According to the National Association of Realtors, in neighborhoods with tight inventory in Pittsburgh, it has some spots right now like Mount Lebanon, Lawrenceville, and Cranberry where there's only about 1.2 months of homes available. More than 55% of the homes are selling at or above asking price. Now, before you panic, that does not automatically mean that buyers are overpaying. It just means that sellers are pricing well and demand is high. The real question is not whether you paid above asking price, it's whether you paid more than the home is actually worth. Those are 2 totally different things, and mixing them up is where people lose money. This is one of the biggest misconceptions that I see. Buyers think over asking automatically means overpaying, and that's just not true. The buyers who overpay are the ones who skip the homework and just react. The buyers who do not overpay do one thing very differently. They figure out what the home is worth before they even make an offer. Everything after that is just negotiation. That's one step, knowing the value before you write the offer. It's what separates a smart purchase from an emotional one. So that's the big idea. Now, let's get practical. How do you actually figure out what a home is worth before you offer? Because this is the part where most buyers, even people who have bought before, leave money on the table. Here's the truth. Spending 3 or 4 hours doing research before you write an offer is the best use of your time in this entire process. Nothing else you do will protect your money the way that this does. And I know that that doesn't sound exciting, but this is the part that can literally save you thousands. This is where smart buyers separate themselves from everyone else. It starts with something called a comparative market analysis, or CMA. Your agent should pull one of these for every single home that you're serious about. All it means is looking at similar homes that actually sold nearby in the last 60 to 90 days and using those sales to figure out what your target home should be worth, not what the seller hopes that it's worth, what the market actually says that it's worth. This is something that I do for all of my buyers every single time because guessing at value is where people get into trouble. Now, here is where Pittsburgh gets interesting because there are 3 things about this city that make home values trickier to compare than most places. The first one is the hills. Pittsburgh's topography is unlike almost anywhere else in the country. You can have 2 homes in the same neighborhood, same price range, and one is on a nice flat street, and the other is on a street so steep that your car slides in January. Those homes are not worth the same thing, even if they look identical on paper. Make sure that your agent is accounting for the actual street conditions when they pull your comps, not just the neighborhood name. I have had buyers love a house until they saw it in the winter, and that steep street completely changed their perspective. It matters more than people think. And here's a bonus tip that that most out-of-town buyers never hear. A steep driveway that faces north is a real problem in Pittsburgh. Why? Because north-facing driveways stay icy way longer in the winter here since the sun never really hits them. It's a safety issue and a pain in the daily life issue, and it generally affects how much buyers want a home when it comes time to sell. So if you're looking at a house with a steep north-facing driveway, that should factor into what you're willing to pay for it. This is one of those things that doesn't show up in photos, but absolutely shows up in real life, and it should show up in your offer price too. The second Pittsburgh thing is the age of the home. A huge chunk of the housing stock in Allegheny County was built prior to 1960, and two houses that look exactly the same from the street can be in completely different shapes on the inside depending on what the previous owners took care of. A home with a new roof, updated wiring, and a newer furnace is worth more than where nobody has touched anything in 30 years, even if they are on the same block. Your CMA needs to try to account for that difference. And if it cannot be precise about it, you need to build some cushion into your maximum offer price just in case the inspection reveals things that the photos didn't show. I've seen buyers assume two homes are equal just based on appearance, and then the inspection tells a completely different story. That's where this really matters. The third thing is what locals call the newcomer's tax. Here's how it works. Once you buy a home, your sale price is public record. The school district in your area can look at that price and say, hey, this home sold for way more than it's currently assessed at. We want a higher tax. And they can appeal your assessment. If they win, your property tax bill in year 2 jumps, sometimes a lot. This is not a rare thing. It happens regularly in Allegheny County. So when you're figuring out your maximum offer price, use 2.5% to 3% of the purchase price as your annual property tax estimate on a city limits home, not the prior owner's tax bill, because those two numbers might not even be close. This catches a lot of buyers off guard, especially people relocating, because they're budgeting based on the current taxes, not what they're likely to become. Beyond all that, your agent should also pull 2 more quick numbers for any home that you're considering. First, how long has it been sitting on the market? A home that's been listed for 45 days while everything else around it sells in 2 weeks is telling you something. Maybe it's overpriced. Maybe there's a problem. Either way, that's leverage for you. Second, what is the list to sale price ratio in that neighborhood over the last 90 days? If homes are selling for 3% over asking on average, you need to know that going in. If they're selling for 2% under asking, you have room to negotiate, and you should use it. Your agent can pull this data in a few minutes, and it makes a real difference in how you approach your offer. These are the kind of details that shift you from guessing to negotiating, and that's a big difference. So now you know what the home is worth. Great. The next question is, how do you actually win it without blowing past the number? Because here's the thing that people don't realize. Price is not the only thing that sellers care about, not even close. And this is where a lot of buyers get it wrong. They think that the highest number always wins. And that's simply not how most sellers make their decision. I want to share something that surprises a lot of buyers. A seller gets 2 offers. One is for $250,000 with a rock-solid financing approval and a flexible closing date. The other offer is for $255,000 from a buyer who feels financially shaky and who needs a very specific timeline. Most sellers take the $250,000 offer every single time. I've seen this exact scenario play out on listings where the higher offer loses because it just didn't feel as solid or as easy to work with. Why? Because sellers are not just looking for money. They want certainty. They want to know that this deal is going to close and it's not going to be a nightmare. And if you can give them that feeling, you have a massive edge without having to be the highest bidder. At the end of the day, sellers want a smooth transaction just as much as they want a good price. So let me walk you through the 4 things that actually make a strong offer in Pittsburgh right now. The first one is your financing proof. And in 2026, a regular pre-approval letter is honestly not enough anymore in the most competitive neighborhoods. What you want to go with is something called TBD underwriting, also known as Certified Home Buyer Status. Basically, what that means is your lender has already done the deep review of your income, bank accounts, and your credit before you even find a house. So when you're under contract, the heavy lifting is already done. According to Freddie Mac, this kind of pre-underwriting makes sellers feel much more confident that your deal will not fall apart. In a multiple offer situation, it can be the thing that tips the decision your way, even if you are not the highest offer on the table. Ask your lender about it before you start writing offers. This is one of the biggest upgrades that I've seen in offer strength. When the listing agent knows your financing is solid, it completely changes how they view your offer. Now, before we go further, here's a money fact that most buyers never think about. Pittsburgh has a 5% transfer tax on home sales. It's typically split 2.5% between buyer and seller. What that means practically is that for every extra $10,000 you bid above what the data says a home is worth, you are paying an extra $250 in transfer tax right there at closing on top of the higher price. So in a bidding war where emotion pushes you $20,000 over your number, you're not just paying $20,000 more, you're paying $20,500 more. It adds up. Keep that in your head when the pressure is on. And when you're in that moment, it's easy to forget these extra costs, but they absolutely add up by the time you get to the closing table. The second thing is your earnest money deposit. This is the good faith money that you put down when your offer gets accepted. In Pittsburgh, the local norm is usually somewhere between $1,000 and $5,000 flat, usually 1% of the purchase price. But here's the power move. If you want to stand out, offer a percentage instead, something like 2 to 3% of the purchase price. On a $280,000 home, that could be $5,600 to $8,400. You're not losing that money, it just goes towards your down payment or closing costs at the end. But to the seller, it's a strong signal that you're serious and not just going to bail on the deal. When sellers see a stronger deposit like that, it sends a very clear message that you are committed to the deal. The third thing is your contingencies. Contingencies are the conditions that must be met for the sale to proceed. They protect you. The most common ones are your financing, inspection, and appraisal contingencies. Now, some buyers in competitive markets try to waive all of them to look stronger. I'm going to tell you right now, do not do that in the older Pittsburgh homes. There is too much that could be hiding in the walls, the pipes, and in basements in homes built before 1960. Instead, you can modify your inspection contingency. Tell the seller that you will only request repairs or credits if the cost to fix something exceeds $3,000 or $5,000. That says that you're not going to sweat the small stuff, but you are also not signing up for a surprise. Sellers love that. It makes your offer cleaner without taking away real protection. I've seen deals fall apart because buyers waive protections that they really needed. This is one area where you want to be smart, not aggressive. The fourth thing is timing. Find out when the seller needs to close. Do they have a new house lined up? Do they need more time to move? Match your timeline to what they need, and it costs you absolutely nothing. But it can be the detail that makes your offer feel like the easy choice. Sometimes it's not about money at all. It's about making the seller's life easier, and that can absolutely win you the deal. Okay, pause. Because we have covered a lot and I want to make sure that it's all clicking for you. We talked about why buyers overpay and how to stop it. We covered how to do your homework so that you know what a home is actually worth. And we just went through how to build an offer that wins on more than just price. What is coming up next is what happens after your offer gets accepted, because that is honestly where a lot of buyers drop the ball and give back money that they already won. And this is the part a lot of buyers don't expect. Just because your offer gets accepted doesn't mean that the deal is done. But before that, if you're thinking about moving to the Pittsburgh area and want a real breakdown of the numbers, the neighborhoods, the school districts, the employers, all of it in one place, I put together a completely free Pittsburgh relocation guide. You can download it in the description and the top pinned comment. And hey, for anyone who's new here, I'm Diane McConaghy. I am a full-time Pittsburgh realtor and relocation specialist, and my team works with buyers and sellers every day throughout Allegheny, Washington, Beaver, and Butler counties. We're here to help you make a smart move, and I genuinely love what I do. This is what we guide our clients through every single day, making sure that they're not just winning the house, but making a smart decision along the way. All right, let's keep going, because the next two sections might actually be the most important ones. Okay, so your offer got accepted. You're excited, and then the appraisal comes back and it's lower than what you offered. What do you do? This is one of those moments that can really throw buyers off because everything felt like it was going smoothly up to this point. First, don't panic. This is happening more in Pittsburgh right now than most people expect, and here's why. When a home gets multiple offers and the price gets pushed up, the appraiser still has to use recent sales to justify the value. And if comparable sales from 60 to 90 days ago are lower than today's prices, the appraised value might not keep up with what the market is doing right now. According to Zillow research, this kind of appraisal gap shows up more often in markets where prices are rising fast. And Pittsburgh's competitive pockets are doing exactly that. I've seen this happen even in strong deals where everything else looked solid. It is not unusual in a fast-moving market like this. So when this happens, you have three choices and you need to know all three before you're sitting in that moment. Choice 1, go back to the seller and ask them to lower the price to match the appraised value. This is your right if you have an appraisal contingency built into your contract. The seller might say yes, especially if they don't want to have another offer ready to step in. This is the option that protects your money the most. And in some cases, sellers will work with you here, especially if they don't want to risk putting the home back on the market and having a stigma. Choice 2, pay the difference yourself. This means that you cover the gap between the appraised value and the contracted price in cash at closing. Some buyers agree to do this as part of their offer strategy and actually write it into the offer up front as what is called an appraisal gap clause. If you go this route, you need to put a hard dollar limit on it, something like, I will cover up to $5,000 above the appraised value. Never leave it open-ended. An open-ended appraisal gap commitment is one of the fastest ways to accidentally overpay by a lot. I always tell buyers, if you're going to do this, you need a clear limit so that you stay in control of the situation. Choice 3, walk away. If the appraised value is way below your contract price, the seller will not budge, and covering the gap would push you well above what the data says the home is worth. Sometimes the right answer is just take your earnest money and go and find a better house. That's not giving up. That is you protecting your financial future, and the right deal is out there. And this is the hardest option emotionally, but sometimes it's absolutely the smartest financial decision that you can make. The key thing to remember here, your appraisal contingency is one of the most valuable things in your purchase agreement. Before you waive it to make your offer look better, talk to your agent about the actual appraisal risk for that specific home and neighborhood. In some Pittsburgh areas, appraisals almost always come in fine. In others, especially places with very few recent sales or a lot of price movement, the risk is real and you want that protection. This is why strategy matters, because not every home carries the same level of appraisal risk. The appraisal situation is one way that buyers give back money after the offer is accepted. The inspection period is the other. And this one is where I see two totally opposite mistakes happen all the time. Let me show you the right way to handle it. And this next part is just as important because this is where a lot of deals either fall apart or buyers end up taking on more than they should. Here's the deal with inspections. Some buyers come out of the inspection wanting to fix every single thing on the report. The seller feels attacked, the deal blows up, and everyone loses. Other buyers say nothing at all because they don't want to rock the boat, and then they spend the first year of homeownership fixing stuff that the seller should have paid for. Neither of those is the right move. I see both of these extremes all the time, either asking for everything or asking for nothing, and both can cost you in different ways. The right move is to know exactly which items are worth fighting for and which ones you should just let go. And this is where having a clear strategy makes all the difference. I always tell my buyers to put everything from the inspection report into 3 piles. Pile 1 is safety stuff. We're talking active electrical problems, a furnace leaking carbon monoxide, cracks in the structure, things that could actually hurt. These are non-negotiable. You ask for them to be fixed or credited no matter what. And in Western Pennsylvania specifically, 2 inspections that should be on your list for every single house are a radon test and a wood destroying insect inspection, also called a WDI. It is a health issue and it belongs in your safety pile. The WDI inspection checks for termites and other wood-eating insects. Given how old most of Pittsburgh's housing stock is, this one really matters and it should always be done. These are the items that you never ignore. This is about protecting yourself and your family. Pile 2 is the big ticket system stuff, things like the roof, the HVAC, the water heater, and the foundation. These are the items that cost real money to replace. Roof replacement right now in Pittsburgh runs around $10,000 to $18,000. An HVAC system, $7,000 to $14,000. A water heater, $1,000 to $2,500. If your inspector says any of these systems are at the end of their life, include that in your repair request with actual contractor estimates attached. A real number with a real quote is much harder for a seller to push back on than just saying, it's old. This is where having actual numbers changes the conversation. You're no longer guessing, you're negotiating with facts. And one more thing that comes up constantly in Pittsburgh because our older infrastructure, the sewer scope scope. Always do a sewer scope. According to local plumbing contractors, if a sewer line in Pittsburgh needs a full repair or replacement, it can run anywhere from $5,000 for a simple fix up to $25,000 or more. If they have to use trenchless lining or dig up the street, that's real money. And if the scope finds a problem, it's absolutely a negotiating item. I've had situations where this alone uncovered major issues. That's not something that you want to skip. Pile 3 is everything else. Scuffs on the wall, carpet that's worn but fine, a door that sticks a little, loose toilets. These are things you don't ask for. They were visible when you looked at the home. They were priced into what you offered, and asking for them makes it look like you're trying to nickel and dime the seller. It poisons the goodwill that you built. Save your asks for the stuff that actually matters. This is where deals can fall apart over things that really don't matter in the big picture. At the end of the day, the inspection is not about getting a discount just because you can. It's about making sure that the price you pay matches the actual condition of the home. That is what not overpaying really means. It's not about winning. It's about making sure that you're making a smart purchase. All right. Let me bring it all together real quick. The whole point of this video is simple. Overpaying in Pittsburgh is not something that just happens to you. It happens when you do not have a plan. So here is yours. Everything we just walked through is your plan. This is how you stay in control instead of reacting to the market. Know what the home is worth before you offer. Use a real CMA, watch for Pittsburgh's hills and that north-facing driveway trap, account for the newcomer tax when building your budget, and pull up days on market and list to sales price data. The Pittsburgh metro median is around $270,000 to $290,000 right now, and in the hottest neighborhoods, more than 55% of homes are selling at or above asking with only about 1.2 months of supply. Structure your offer with a TBD underwriting to stand out. Use a percentage-based earnest money deposit as your power move, and remember that extra $10,000 you bid adds $250 in transfer tax at closing table. If the appraisal comes in low, know your 3 options and do not panic. And when you get to the inspection, fight for the safety items, the big ticket system failures, radon, and the sewer scope. Let the small stuff go. If this helped you feel more ready to actually go out and buy a home in Pittsburgh without feeling like you have to throw money at every situation, hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I put out real, practical Pittsburgh real estate info every week, and this is exactly the kind of stuff that I love talking about. My goal is always to give you the kind of information that actually helps you make better decisions, not just more noise. When you are ready to actually do this, reach out to me. My contact information is right below this video. My team and I work with buyers and sellers every day, and we will make sure that every offer you write is smart, strategic, and built to win without overpaying. This is exactly what we help our clients do every day. Navigate this process without feeling like they're guessing. Grab the free Pittsburgh relocation guide in the description too. It has all the neighborhood information, employer hubs, school districts, and cost of living numbers that you need to feel prepared for before you ever talk to a lender. And when you're done here, go watch my next video. Never buy these types of houses in Western Pennsylvania in 2026. Trust me, there are some home types in this market that look like a deal and are absolutely not. That video can save you from a real expensive mistake. I'm Diane McConaghy, your Pittsburgh Realtor and Relocation Guide, and I'll see you in the next one.